The Stoic way to end emotional manipulation. You're tired of trying. She pulls away, you chase, you speak, she goes silent, and now you're wondering, should I just give up? What if giving up isn't weakness, but a shift in power? The Stoics never begged. They never explained themselves twice. They never chased ghosts. They acted with purpose, even in heartbreak. Especially in heartbreak, because the moment you beg, you hand over your power. You tell them, my peace depends on you. And that is how you lose yourself. But to stand still, to walk away without noise, to choose silence over reaction, that is power, cold, stoic, unshakable. A man sits alone in a quiet room. The phone is still. No message, no reply. But he doesn't panic. He doesn't reach. He doesn't beg. He simply waits, not for her, but for his strength to return. This is how emotional manipulation dies, not with confrontation, but with stillness. Marcus Aurelius and the collapse of identity. This isn't just rejection. It feels like your whole identity is falling apart. Who you were with them, what you believed, it's all slipping. You don't just lose them, you start to lose yourself. But the Stoics knew, when everything crumbles, that's when you rebuild. Marcus Aurelius lost his wife. He lost trust in his own son. He was emperor, yet completely alone. But he didn't chase. He didn't collapse. He wrote meditations to stay grounded, to stay powerful. Pain didn't break him, it shaped him. And now, it's your turn. In this video, you'll learn 6 Stoic strategies to stop reacting emotionally and start taking back control, not by fighting harder, but by getting clear, calm, and unshakable. 6 Stoic strategies to reclaim your power in love. Before we begin, a necessary warning. Most men make this mistake when love starts to fall apart. You confuse attachment with love. You think you're chasing her, but what you're really chasing is the pain. You're addicted to the drama, to the uncertainty, to the emotional highs and lows, because they make you feel alive. But here's the truth. If love hurts more than it heals, it's not love, it's addiction. Stoic response: pain is information. It's not punishment. It's your system telling you something inside you is off balance, not her, not them, you. So we don't numb the pain. We read it and we use it to rebuild. Let's begin. 1. Control what you can. Let go of what you can't. You stare at your phone. No new messages, no calls. You tell yourself you're fine. But 5 minutes later, you're checking again. And deep down, you know, you're not looking for her. You're looking for control, some small sign that you're still relevant in her world. But here's the harsh truth. You don't control how she feels. You don't control her silence, her confusion, or the version of you she plays in her head. And chasing control where there is none, that's how you lose yourself. The Stoics didn't deny emotion. They just refused to be ruled by what they couldn't change. Marcus Aurelius said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So what do you actually control? You control your thoughts, your response, your dignity, the way you carry yourself when someone else is playing games. You control whether you check her story at 2 a.m. You control whether you double text just to get something back. You control whether you spiral or stay centered. And here's the paradox. The more you let go of trying to manage someone else's emotions, the more powerful you become in your own life. Real power isn't reactive. It's rooted, quiet, focused. It doesn't flinch at silence. It doesn't beg for clarity. It creates clarity by choosing what matters and releasing what doesn't. So the next time your mind says, check the phone, just once, say no. Because every time you resist that impulse, you remind yourself, I don't control her, I control me. And that's more than enough. 2. Don't chase. Position yourself. You think you're showing her you care. You double text, you call, you wait around for a reply, you over-explain, you remind her of the good times. But deep down, you know, this isn't strength. This is fear wearing a nice outfit. This is panic disguised as loyalty. Let's call it what it is. Chasing. And the moment you start chasing, you flip the power dynamic without realizing it. You're no longer leading, you're reacting. You're no longer being chosen, you're asking to be kept. And the worst part, she feels it. She may not say it, but she senses when your energy shifts. She can tell when your confidence turns into anxiety. And in response, she does what most emotionally unavailable people do. She pulls back, not out of cruelty, but because attraction isn't built in pressure. It's built in presence, in certainty, in calm. You used to wait hours before texting back. Now you're watching those 3 little dots on iMessage, typing as if your peace depends on them. A Stoic doesn't chase. He positions. He doesn't try to convince anyone to stay. He becomes someone who doesn't need to convince. He lives a life with standards, internally and externally. And anyone who doesn't align with those standards simply doesn't get access. No begging, no persuasion, just boundaries. Think about it. When was the last time chasing made you feel empowered? It doesn't. It drains you. It puts your sense of self in someone else's hands. So flip the question. Stop asking, how do I make her come back? Start asking, how do I become the kind of man who never has to chase in the first place? That man works on his purpose. That man trains his mind and body. That man doesn't beg for love, because he is love, grounded, clear, whole. And when a woman sees that, really sees it, she doesn't need a paragraph. She feels it. Because a man who no longer needs to chase is a man who finally became the mountain, still, solid, magnetic, untouched by the storm. 3. Silence is a weapon. We've been conditioned to believe silence means weakness, that if you don't speak up, you're losing, that if you don't respond, you don't care. But in the world of emotional manipulation, silence is a weapon more powerful than words, especially when someone's trying to control the frame, twist your words, or bait you into reaction. Because manipulators feed off your energy, your outrage, your need to explain, your desperate attempts to be understood. But when you go silent, not out of fear but out of strategy, you starve them. They can't feed on what you don't give. There's a quote from the Stoics that says, "Say little, do much." That's not passivity. That's precision. That's understanding when speaking is necessary, and when your silence says more than your defense ever could. Think about it. How many times have you tried to talk it out with someone who already decided not to hear you? How many times have your words been used against you, twisted, reframed, weaponized? Now imagine you said nothing, not a cold shoulder, not a guilt trip, just stillness, no reaction, no chasing, just space. You don't ignore to punish. You go silent to shift the energy, because silence forces the other person to face something they've spent their whole life running from, themselves. When there's no one left to argue with, no one to blame, no one to play the victim to, they're left alone with their own reflection. And in that reflection, something powerful happens. Clarity, discomfort, maybe even regret. Stoic silence isn't emotional withdrawal. It's emotional discipline. It's knowing, if this conversation no longer serves truth, I owe it nothing. So when the manipulator plays games, when the guilt trips come in, when the bait is set, you don't flinch. You step back. You observe. Because silence isn't retreat. It's control. The kind they can feel, even louder than your voice. 4. Test her value, not just her attention. She replies. After 3 days of silence, she finally texts back. It's casual. Hey, sorry, been crazy busy. And just like that, your chest loosens. You feel important again, like you still matter. But stop, pause, look deeper. Was it real connection you felt, or just relief? Because here's what's really happening. You're mistaking attention for value. You tell yourself, she texted back. Maybe she still cares. But deep down, you know this pattern. She disappears for days, then returns with a flirty emoji. She's not connecting. She's keeping you just close enough to stay relevant, but never close enough to commit. You're not alone. Most men today are stuck in emotional survival mode, living for breadcrumbs of interest, chasing moments of recognition, and calling it love. You crave that hit of dopamine, a text, a like, a laugh at your joke, because it makes you feel seen. But being seen isn't the same as being valued, and being wanted for a moment isn't the same as being respected long-term. Here's the shift. A Stoic man doesn't just ask, does she still think of me? He asks, does her presence elevate me or drain me? Let's break it down. Does she support your goals or distract you from them? Does she encourage your discipline or sabotage it with chaos and drama? Does she respect your boundaries or constantly test them? Does she want you or just wants to feel wanted by you? There's a big difference, and you'll miss it if you're only paying attention to the little dopamine hits she throws your way. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations because someone gave him attention. He wrote it to keep himself aligned with virtue, with truth, strength, clarity, purpose. If it doesn't serve virtue, it weakens you. That includes people, especially the ones who make your heart race and your mind spiral. So ask yourself, is she helping you become the man you respect? Or is she keeping you in a cycle where you're always chasing, always guessing, always doubting? Because the Stoic path isn't about being loved by many. It's about being undeniably powerful within, even if that means walking away from anything that doesn't align. 5. Strategic withdrawal. There comes a moment in every unbalanced relationship when you feel yourself slipping. Not physically, not even visibly, but something inside you goes quiet. You find yourself over-explaining, justifying your value, competing for attention that used to be freely given. And that's when it happens. You've lost the frame. You're no longer being chosen. You're negotiating your worth. But here's the truth. No one teaches you. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't to speak louder. It's to disappear. Not in anger, not in spite, but with purpose. Robert Greene said it best in Law 16 of the 48 Laws of Power. Use absence to increase respect. Because when you withdraw strategically, you create space. And in that space, you shift perception. Suddenly, you're not available on command. You're not reacting to breadcrumbs. You're not dancing to a rhythm she controls. You become rare, and rare things are always more valuable. Here's the psychology behind it. When something becomes predictable, we stop respecting it. But when something strong and centered steps back, without drama, it forces the other person to confront the void they used to ignore. They start asking, wait, where did his energy go? Why isn't he chasing like before? Did I lose something real? And that shift, that moment of silence, is where power rebalances. But here's the Stoic twist. You don't withdraw to manipulate. You withdraw to recenter, to step out of noise, to remind yourself of who you are when no one is clapping. This isn't ghosting. This isn't punishment. It's self-respect in motion. Because the man who knows when to walk away, calmly, cleanly, clearly, is a man who doesn't chase power. He becomes it. So next time you feel the urge to fix it, to argue, to explain yourself one more time, don't. Step back. Let absence speak. Let silence realign the balance. And let your value rise in the space you no longer fill. 6. Love with reason, not with dependence. Falling in love feels powerful. It gives you energy, focus, meaning. But there's a thin line between love and losing yourself inside it. Most people don't cross that line intentionally. It starts small. You skip the gym because they asked to see you. You ignore red flags because no one's perfect. You lower your standards because you're afraid they might leave. You stay up late comforting her after another emotional spiral. But when you need support, she's suddenly too overwhelmed to talk. She says she wants honesty, but the moment you open up, she makes it about her. And before you realize it, you've become a version of yourself built around her. Not beside her, not with her, around her. That's not love, that's dependence. The Stoics believed love is sacred, but only if it keeps you aligned with your values. They didn't reject connection. They rejected attachment to what you can't control. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, attach yourself to what is under your control. You can't control if she stays. You can't control how deeply she loves you back. But you can control the kind of man you are in love. Grounded or needy. Clear or chaotic. Whole or hollow. Here's the test. If loving her means betraying your boundaries, if you're constantly adjusting your truth to keep her around, if your peace disappears the moment she pulls away, you're not in love. You're in survival mode. Stoic love isn't emotionless. It's just self-respecting. It says, I love you, but I will not break myself to keep you. I care, but not at the cost of my clarity, my mission, my identity. So love fully, love deeply, but don't abandon yourself in the name of connection. Because the man who can say no with love, the man who can walk away without hate, is the man who never gives up his power, even in heartbreak. And that kind of love is the only love worth keeping. Let's bring it all together. You've just walked through 6 principles that don't just help you survive emotional manipulation. They help you reclaim your center. You learn to control what's yours, your mind, your behavior, your standards. You stopped chasing and started positioning. You embraced silence, not as a retreat, but as a strategy. You stopped mistaking attention for value. You understood when to step back, not to punish, but to restore power. And most importantly, you learned to love with reason, not with desperation. That's what it means to love like a Stoic. It's not cold, it's not distant, it's disciplined, it's grounded in clarity, not chaos. Presence, not panic. Because in the end, you're not giving up on her. You're stepping back to reclaim your dignity. There's a quote that hits home: if it costs you peace, it's too expensive. Your peace isn't negotiable, your self-worth isn't up for auction, and your time, it belongs to people who match your effort, not drain your strength. So if you've ever found yourself stuck in a loop of mixed signals, emotional highs and lows, and the constant feeling of not being enough, know this: you're not broken. You were just too loyal to the wrong dynamic. Now it's time to reset. And if you're ready to take the next step, watch this next video. The Art of No Contact: How Stoics Master Emotional Distance. It'll teach you how to walk away not with bitterness, but with unshakable calm. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. And the most powerful thing you can do is walk away with grace.